Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the life of Maria Skobtsova, a Russian-born nun who fought in the French resistance during Second World War. Her story is a blend of faith, courage, and incredible resilience. Stick around, you won't want to miss this. Maria Skobtsova was born as Elizaveta Yurievna Pilenko on December 20, 1891, in the Russian Empire. Born into an intellectual family in Riga, then part of the Russian Empire, now the capital of Latvia, she was exposed to a myriad of ideas from an early age. A gifted student, Skobtsova went on to study theology and philosophy of various institutions, including the University of Saint Petersburg. She was deeply influenced by the intellectual fervor of the time, and was drawn to the political and spiritual debates that consumed Russian society in the early 20th century. Maria was both a thinker and an activist, participating in various intellectual circles while showing a growing commitment to social justice. Life was not without its hardships for Maria. At a young age, she endured the pain of divorce, a significant stigma in early 20th century Russian society, especially for women. This was followed by the unbearable loss of her child from her first marriage, which led her to question the meaning and purpose of life. Such personal tragedies shook her to the core, leading her to explore existential questions with even more urgency. These experiences also laid the emotional groundwork for the compassion and resilience she would later show in her life. Maria's search for meaning took a significant turn when she left Russia following the Russian Revolution and subsequent civil war. She eventually found her way to Paris, joining the growing community of Russian émigrés in the city. It was in Paris that Maria underwent another significant transformation. She took the vows to become an Orthodox nun, adopting the name Maria Skobtsova. Unlike traditional nuns who seek the quietude of monastic life, Maria chose to serve what she described as the monasticism of the open door, welcoming anyone who needed aid or comfort. A hospice in Paris, located at Rue de l'Ormeau, became more than a spiritual sanctuary. It evolved into a refuge for the needy, the desperate, and when war broke out, for those fleeing Nazi persecution. She would continue to engage in intellectual pursuits, writing essays and participating in theological debates, even as her hospice served the most vulnerable in society. Thus, she seamlessly blended intellectual rigor with compassionate action, laying the groundwork for her future involvement in the French resistance. Before the German occupation, France was a nation with a rich cultural, social, and political landscape. Known for its contributions to arts, philosophy, and democracy, the French Republic was a symbol of liberty and human rights. However, the late 1930s saw the rise of political instability, economic hardship, and an impending sense of war. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, France and Britain declared war on Germany, marking the beginning of Second World War for these Western nations. The German invasion of France in May 1940 was swift and devastating, culminating in the fall of Paris on June 14, 1940. This led to an armistice between France and Germany and the establishment of the Vichy government, a puppet regime led by Marshal Philippe Pétain. The country was divided into the occupied zone in the north and west, which was directly controlled by Germany, and the so-called free zone in the south, nominally administered by the Vichy government, but heavily influenced by Nazi Germany. During this period, French citizens lived under strict controls, rationing, and the ever-present threat of deportation, particularly for Jews and political dissidents. In response to the occupation and the collaborationist Vichy regime, various groups in France organized to resist German rule. Known collectively as the French Resistance, these were loosely affiliated groups of fighters, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens who took part in sabotage, intelligence gathering, and aiding the Allies in various ways. Resistance cells operated in both the occupied and free zones, although with significant risks including deportation, imprisonment, and death. The French resistance played a vital role in disrupting German logistics, aiding the escape of Peruvians and persecuted Jews, and preparing for the eventual Allied invasion. It was a diverse movement comprising people of different political ideologies, religions, and social backgrounds, united by the common cause of fighting against tyranny. Maria Skobtsova's hospice at Rue de l'Ormeau was initially established to serve the needy and the poor. It provided food, shelter, and spiritual comfort to those who had nowhere else to turn. During the German occupation, however, the hospice transformed into something far more dangerous and vital, a refuge for those fleeing persecution. Maria, along with a few trusted aides, turned the hospice into a hidden sanctuary. Rooms were modified to create concealed spaces where people could hide. The hospice became part of a wider network of safe houses and routes designed to smuggle Jews and other persecuted individuals to safety. The operations conducted here were conducted in extreme secrecy. Discovery would mean death or deportation for all involved, including Maria. By converting her hospice into a sanctuary, Maria Skobtsova was able to blend her spiritual mission with direct action against the occupying forces. Her hospice became a tangible manifestation of her theological convictions, a place where faith was transformed into deeds, mirroring her belief that Christian love must be materialized into acts of compassion and bravery. It wasn't just a place of prayer and reflection, but also a place where the ethical mandate to protect human life was acted upon daily. Maria Skobtsova's underground activities could not remain hidden forever, especially as the Gestapo intensified their crackdown on resistance networks. While the exact details may vary depending on sources, it is generally agreed that her capture came after a series of arrests of people connected to her resistance network. The hospice at Rue de l'Ormeau was raided, and various incriminating documents and materials were discovered. Maria Skobtsova, along with her associates and even her own mother, was arrested and interrogated. Eventually, Maria Skobtsova was transported to the Ravensbrück concentration camp, a camp primarily for women located in northern Germany. The journey itself was harrowing, characterized by overcrowded conditions, lack of food, and the ever-present threat of death. Upon arrival, Maria, like others, was stripped of her identity and reduced to a mere number, but she refused to let this crush her spirit. Ravensbrück was one of the most notorious concentration camps of Nazi Germany, primarily designed to incarcerate women. Established in 1939, the camp was intended to hold political prisoners, but over time, its population diversified to include Jews, Jehovah's Witnesses, Roma, and others deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. Conditions were horrific, with prisoners facing forced labor, medical experiments, and routine executions. Maria Skobtsova's final moments were emblematic of her life, devoted to the welfare of others. It is said that she voluntarily took the place of a Jewish woman who was destined for the gas chamber, offering her life so that another might live. While the details may vary, the underlying theme remains consistent. Her final act was one of selfless love and sacrifice. She died in Ravensbrück, but her spirit lived on among those who knew her and were inspired by her. Maria Skobtsova's life is an inspiring tale of courage and selflessness, even in the face of unimaginable hardship. Her legacy reminds us that one person can make a significant impact. If you found her story inspiring, please hit like and consider subscribing. Until next time, stay inspired.